Marjah, Helmand Province, 2010. The Sandbox was humming with 120-degree heat, and the air was thick with the smell of burning trash and diesel fumes.
This is your last chance. If you don't do exactly as I say, you're finished.
Was fresh out
understand me?
of the basic school at Quantico. He knew the textbooks forward and backward. He had his shiny new bars, his freshly pressed camis, and the utter, paralyzing fear that he was going to get his men killed. In the Marine Corps, they call it being green, and in Helmand, being green was often a death sentence. The platoon sergeant, Staff Sergeant Pop Miller, a crusty veteran with 3 combat tours, had pulled Vance aside on day 1. "Sir," Miller said not unkindly, "the textbooks at TBS don't shoot back. Marines don't follow the rank. They follow the man. Learn quick." Vance didn't realize how quickly he'd have to learn. It was supposed to be a low-threat patrol, a simple presence patrol to show the locals that the Marines were in control. The platoon was moving in a jagged column through a tight alleyway in a local bazaar. Vance was in the middle, trying to remember the OODA loop: observe, orient, decide, act, the foundational decision-making model he'd studied. Then the universe fractured. The blast was deafening. It wasn't just a sound. It was a physical force that punched Vance in the chest and filled his mouth with dirt and cordite smoke. An improvised explosive device, an IED. Silence followed for a microsecond, the terrifying, hollow quiet that hangs in the air before the screams start. Then chaos erupted. Small arms fire, crisp and frantic, from the insurgent PKM machine guns and AK-47s, began pouring in from the surrounding rooftops. "Contact front! Contact right!" the Marines shouted over the din. "IED! IED! LCPL Davis is down. Medivac needed." Vance's ears were ringing, and the adrenaline was dumping into his system so fast his vision started to tunnel. The training, the doctrines, the tactical diagrams in his head, they all dissolved. He was paralyzed. He was a 24-year-old kid in a very expensive helmet, and 40 pairs of eyes were looking at him for an answer. Through the ringing, he heard Pop Miller's voice. It wasn't panicked. It was calm, hard, and direct. "Sir, we are in the fatal funnel. Need a decision. Fire and maneuver." "Decide, sir." Miller wasn't taking over command. He was forcing Vance to own it. Vance looked at Miller. The older Marine's eyes were steady, waiting. That gaze snapped Vance back. He observed they were stuck, trapped by geometry and enemy fire. He oriented. The primary threat was the machine gun position at 2 o'clock. He decided. "Viper 2. This is Viper 1. Vance spoke into his PRC 117 radio, his voice surprisingly steady, using the call signs, taking dynamic fire from east-southeast. Grid coordinate follows. He switched to his internal platoon network. "Pop, I need you to suppress that PKM. Get a base of fire on that rooftop now." Miller nodded once. "Roger that, sir." "Red team, up and online. Lay down some lead." Then Vance made his trial by fire decision. "Blue team, you are the maneuver element. We are not breaking contact. We are advancing. You're going to flank that position. Move through the building on the left. Danger close. Go." This was the tactical gamble, ordering men to leave cover and advance through unknown territory under fire. If he was wrong, they would die. If he didn't do it, the whole platoon would eventually be pinned down and picked apart. He watched through his ACOG scope as Blue Team, led by a gritty corporal, broke cover and sprinted toward the building. The sound was overwhelming. The rattle of M4s, the deeper thump, thump, thump of the M240 Bravo supporting them, and the sharp cracks of insurgent rounds hitting the walls near his men. It was terrifying, dynamic, and absolute chaos. And he was commanding it. Blue Team made entry into the building. Minutes felt like hours. Vance held his breath, his eyes fixed on the target rooftop. Suddenly, small explosions erupted on the enemy position. Grenades. The enemy machine gun went silent. Instantly, Blue Team reappeared on the roof, clearing the remaining threats. "Sir, rooftop secure. Viper 2 is secure." The firefight wasn't over, but the dynamic had shifted. The enemy was retreating. Pop Miller moved back to the wounded Lance Corporal Davis, who was already being treated by the platoon corpsman. Davis had a bad shrapnel wound to the leg, but he was alive. Vance walked over to Pop Miller. His hands were shaking slightly. He'd done it. He hadn't frozen again. The chaos hadn't beaten him. Miller looked up, his face covered in soot. He didn't salute. They never saluted officers in the field, to avoid highlighting them for snipers. But he nodded. It was a slow, deliberate nod of genuine respect. "Good call, sir." The Marines needed that. Vance didn't feel victorious. He felt tired. He realized that commanding the chaos wasn't about the textbooks, the rank, or even the perfect tactical decision. It was about having the cojones to observe, orient, decide, and act when the world was trying to break your spirit. Textbook knowledge was a foundation, but combat leadership was a forge. Mark Vance had entered that alleyway as a second lieutenant with gold bars. He was leaving it as a combat officer, tempered in Helmand's fire. The green was gone. Honor, courage, commitment. If this story of leadership under pressure made you proud of the U.S. military, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and share this video to honor the officers who lead from the front. Let us know in the comments your thoughts on the tough decisions military officers face in combat. Semper Fi, and we'll see you on the next mission. Video created by Sabeti1M Rock.